So honestly, this is really stuff that I grew up eating. My mom would make bokkeumbap or fried rice in the morning a lot, and there's always leftover stew.
Yeah, I was about the same. A lot of rice. More pantan. It's all these small little Korean dishes, eggs. I grew up eating a lot of egg in my house, actually.
Like home cooking is this. I don't need to get another utensil because I don't want to fucking wash the dishes. Oh, hey, Sevi. I used to make Sevi's food from scratch. I used to buy organic beef, liver, and I wouldn't even cook for us, but I cook for him. This fucking asshole would never eat it. Now that I have a home kitchen and I cook way more than I ever did, I tend to gravitate towards simpler things, which I think is the normal trajectory for a chef. This is literally how she sits down, I stand up. This is food that I actually make at home and food that I now want to make in a restaurant, which is a strange thing. This is something that I would never have served in a restaurant before. Looks like jail food.
It's pretty, I think.
The biggest influence growing up was my grandmother, or my nan, as we say in England. I just remember her doing lots of Sunday roasts, lots of roasted vegetables, actually. I kind of joke that my plate used to look like the scene from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you know, where I used to build the potatoes up that looked like the mountain.
My mom, one of her specialties was corned beef that was brined in the bag and then boiled for hours. So that was her thing, was like this corned beef. But that was it. I didn't really have anyone that was a stellar cook in my life.
It was a time where 3 generations were still living under one roof. The grandparents, the parents, the kids. So it was like 25 people for lunch, 20 for dinner. So it was like a mini restaurant. My bedroom was right above the kitchen, so I could smell the cabbage, the pork, whatever I was cooking, and maybe that's how I went into that business, I don't know.
When you're a younger cook, you want to learn ideas that have nothing to do with what you grew up in. And I wanted nothing to do with Korean food. I wanted nothing to do with anything of my upbringing. And then things come full circle, right? We're here at 163 First Avenue. This was the original Momofuku Noodle Bar. This is the lease that I signed in 2004. I was 26 years old. So the only reason this was successful is because we were supposed to go out of business. So we threw out the rule book of what was supposed to happen, what was going to be a noodle bar. No one even knew what a noodle bar was. And we started to literally cook things that we were not supposed to cook. We started to change the idea of what an authentic noodle bar was supposed to be. Next thing you know, we got reviewed by Peter Meehan. That really was a game changer for us.
I wrote the first review of Momofuku Noodle Bar, and I hated it when it opened, and then 9 months later it was great, and wrote this review, and then I started going like every Saturday. Some months later, we were both at the same concert, and he came up to me with a beer. At that point, I knew I could choose writing about Dave or being buddies with the guy who had the beer. I took the beer, and we started hanging out. We wrote a book together. We started Lucky Peach magazine. I wanted to do the cookbook with Dave because I wanted to know how to make the food that he was serving at the time. It was just that delicious, and I'm like, if I could cook that food at home, I would be really happy. Now we're just an old married couple, doesn't talk that much.
How Korean is this Thanksgiving gonna be?
I have no idea.
You're gonna cook it.
My mom is gonna cook the Korean stuff.
Your mom's gonna cook the Korean stuff? Are you gonna cook the white people stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll show you white people how to do it better.
You're gonna reach deep down inside to that golfing part inside of you and pull out the whiteness.
I'm gonna bring out the biggest bitch of Betty Crocker you've ever fucking seen.
Did you always have traditionally Thanksgiving?
Growing up, our Thanksgivings were the highlight, maybe the highlight of the year. You would wind up having this massive spread of American white food and very, very authentic Korean food. When I first started cooking, I just remember the first couple years I would make the most insane Thanksgiving dinners. And I would cook for like 2 straight days, and I didn't even think twice about it. Listen, when you're just starting out as a cook, you don't have any freedom of expression, right? The only freedom you have is like in family meals,
Right.
or like,
You get to make an appetizer.
and I'm like working garde manger. It's like, oh my God, I get to roast something that's not like,
You get to touch hot food.
yeah. So I just make this like insane spread. Of course I brought my knives down. You know, it was like I was making food for like the King of France or something. I did a butternut squash, a black trumpet, capon, chestnut soup, and I did all this crazy shit. I remember being like, wow, that was unnecessary labor. Never gonna do that again. When I opened Momofuku in 2004, there was like no more cooking ever again.
For you at home.
Yeah, too busy. For like years, I missed Thanksgiving because of work. So the first restaurant I opened up, the original noodle bar, is 27 seats. This is around 200 plus. So this is a very big restaurant. You know, I always admire certain chefs, like chefs that are in Japan or whatnot, that only have like one restaurant. I don't know, that just never happened. Or I don't know how the hell that all happened.
How you doing, Chef?
What's up, brother? Home cooking, or I call ugly delicious food, has now become the food that I also want to make in the restaurant. There's a way to coax some more out of a dish. I'm gonna make this braised cod dish that we've been screwing around with. It's vaguely Portuguese, Korean, but tastes Sichuan style. I've just reached a point where I'm okay making really ugly food. This is basically one of the ugliest dishes I've ever made. I think it's a mixture of age and me just sort of coming into my own a little bit. This is really just a peasant dish of like peppers, potatoes, and fish. You know, if I cooked it with paprika, you could almost say this is like a Portuguese thing. And if I added sausage, it would be like sausage and peppers, right? But I did it. And because I think it's really important to have sweetness when you have something really hot. We have sweet potatoes in there and carrots and mung bean noodles. So it's like, what the fuck are you eating? You know what I mean? If you try to respect these cultures, you can figure out how to merge them together without bastardizing any of it. It's how do you construct a dish where you can't see the seams? Visually, it happens like in an Escher painting, where you don't know what's up or down, you know, where it begins or it ends. You can hear it in music, Bach's fugues. If you play it right, you can, in theory, play it forever. The dishes that we were making that have been successful, they just somehow made sense, right? Even though they weren't supposed to make sense, right? And you know it's so delicious, but it's not the deliciousness that makes it like so memorable. It's something that's so delicious that you associate it with a memory, and that's what moves you to another time in your life, which is sort of like that Ratatouille moment. And I can't believe I'm quoting a cartoon of fuck, but like they trigger something. It's when you eat a dish that's not even like roast chicken, but reminds you of a dish of roast chicken cooked by your mom. That's where you want to be at in cooking. Here's another thing, at least cooking at my mom's house, there's like no tools.
Did you roll down with anything? Did you bring knives?
No. God,
I
no.
almost grabbed knives.
No. I don't even know if the ovens work, if the microwave doesn't work. It's like, it looks relatively janky.
We will go there tomorrow and make Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, like pilgrims.
Regardless
Yes.
of the circumstances.
Much like pilgrims, we will get rid of the natural inhabitants and take it for ourselves. do you want to make for lunch?
난 런치까지 생각 안 했는데 우리 아들 힘든 거 싫은데
Hey, Mom, you want to put this in the galbijim?
갈비찜에 떡이 낫겠다 얘.
We'll see.
No shrimp?
Yeah, I want to get some of these.
That's too big.
Don't worry, Mom.
I buy this one.
No, Mom, we're good.
David Chang, where you going?
Go this way.
David Chang, you like this?
I don't, unless you want to bring it.
David Chang, we almost done. 뉴욕에는 이런 스토어 없지?
Not like this.
I grab a spoon from my hand.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, more, a little bit crispy.
Hey, Mom, I got it.
I don't understand how can you so cook very good.
It's true, you never taught me how to cook one thing.
No, I didn't.
Not one
He's
thing.
in my house, he's the king.
Here.
He's the baby king.
The baby king.
Yeah, so we not teach you food.
And it's not a pleasant term. It's like my spoiled brat. I mean, honestly, all the recipes that I make today that are inspired by you, it's only because I've seen you do it 1,000 times. I made my first bindaedok last year.
Oh, yeah?
No recipe,
Really?
but I knew how to do it. I remember all your tricks. 7-Up with the mulnaengmyeon,
That's right. Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Right?
It's very sparkling taste.
She used to make steaks in the toaster oven.
Because
You used to put sirloins frozen from like Giant, and you'd cook them frozen, frozen in the toaster oven.
you remember too much.
What are you doing with lobster?
I was gonna make lunch.
We're gonna go country style?
Yeah. We're gonna have kalbijim tonight. And you would serve kalbijim for like 3 weeks after, right? Till everything was consumed. So the first 2 days, you could eat it on the bone. And then 72 hours,
Right.
everything started to turn to mush. But all of a sudden, all the good pieces were gone, and then you would only have the tendons. You made me eat all the chewy stuff. And I remember one day, I had friends over from elementary school. You had a 2-week-old pot of kalbijim. And
How
then
come you remember
I remember
everything?
This. And you made a pot of curry, and the curry smells terrible to me.
Oh, yeah?
And I remember looking at everyone's faces, how horrified they were.
Oh,
The next day, everyone at school made fun of me.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Mom, come on. But you had no idea. To you, this is like extraordinarily delicious food. And that was the cultural shock that was so hard for you and Dad to understand. And the funny thing is, now that food is super cool, which is so weird.
Wow. Wow, this is good lobster.
Could have cooked the noodles more.
Did he help you when he was little? Was he ever little?
No. The person that I saw cook the most was her mom. My earliest memories are on my grandmother's back while she's cooking over this. She would just cook. And I would always be there. And I would spend weekends at their retirement home, and I'd always liked spending time there. Hi, guys.
Hi, 우리 handsome.
What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
Good. This is Peter.
Nice to meet you, man. How's it going?
The funny thing for me is when people think I'm cooking all the time at home or that my boyfriend has the best luck in the world of eating well every night.
Best case on any day, you'll get some scrambled eggs out of the deal or you'll get some late night food after work, but there's not a lot of time for us to plan a meal for even the people that we love the most.
I used to cook for my husband a lot. You know, it was a gesture of true love, and I mean, I feel bad that he doesn't get as much love anymore because I make stuff for my kids, or I like prioritize other things, sometimes laundry.
Rene Redzepi is one of the world's great chefs. He's one of my closest friends, but I think he's most well known, obviously, for being the chef of Noma. He's someone that's very significant in the culinary world because he's the reason why people eat Nordic food around the world.
The most common thing you hear if you tell people that you date a chef is that, oh my God, you must eat so well at home. And it's like, I mean, we do, but because I cook, but he's never here when it's dinner time. When I was pregnant with our first daughter, I started writing down my favorite recipes because I always liked the idea of having this family cookbook and the recipes that Renee would be able to pass down through the Noma cookbooks. Can't really make it in a home kitchen. So I created an Instagram account, started posting dinner on there, and was offered a book deal. It's called Downtime. It means that we're all gonna sit down and be together and talk. It's a big thing for us, dinner. I mean, I will say having like Renee and Dave at once, and they're gonna be like joking a lot, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but totally fine.
I remember when we had David Chang over for the first time, he was so happy about it. It's like, we never do this in New York because nobody has kitchens big enough to cook in. You always go out for dinner.
Even though he doesn't cook a lot, he now enjoys just being able to cook at home.
Yeah.
It is nice.
I think increasingly more and more when people go out, they want something that's more home cooking. Whereas maybe before it was something, people wanted something they don't get at home.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least at Noma, a lot of the guests, deep down inside, they have a secret wish that their next dish is a steak and the dessert is a brownie, you know?
Yeah, that reminds me of when I had my first Noma dinner. It reminded me of something my mom used to make. It brought me back to that moment, and it was so homey, and it was just like so unexpected. And I was like, this is bonkers, this is crazy. Like, I have no idea that I could feel this way about food.
Oh. Sneaking in.
You guys gossiping? Are you gossiping about me? No.
She was.
I know where to get all the answers from. I just have to talk to you.
No, and then we were talking about the differences between restaurant cooking and home cooking.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. I think that so many things that we do in restaurants can be replicated by any other restaurant, right? The thing that can separate a restaurant experience is literally how much someone cares about making that food.
Mm-hmm. Here for home cooking, the dean just wants to make us so happy.
It has less to do with perfection than I think with intent.
Mm-hmm.
The intent is more perfect. Right? Have you ever used the Noma cookbooks for home cooking?
No.
Not even once?
Well, I mean, like, I loved cooking before I met Renee, and when I met Renee, it was incredible. I would call Renee and say, you know that thing that's on that dish? Can I do that at home? What do I do? So, very lucky in that way.
So this is a dish from a restaurant. When my mom wasn't cooking, or if I wasn't playing golf or something, we'd go to this restaurant called Wu's Garden.
Family restaurant.
Yeah. So this restaurant, it was owned by Chinese immigrants that were cooks in the Shandong province of China. So they cooked with a lot of garlic and scallions, and most people assumed that it was just sort of a Chinese-American restaurant, but my dad and the owner were friends, and it looked Chinese-American, but the dishes that we ordered were always Shandong style. We'd always get this braised tofu, which is cooked very similar to this dish, which is the braised boneless chicken, which was dark meat that was marinated in Shaoxing wine and a little soy, and then they would bread it and then dip it in egg, which was a very different thing. So I thought it was like the greatest dish growing up. I love that restaurant so
Getting hungry?
The greatest dish growing up. I love that restaurant so much. I was very sad when it closed. We're there for the last day.
Where's the menu?
And like many Chinese immigrant families that open up restaurants, they worked hard so their kids wouldn't do the restaurant business. And I asked them for basically the recipe. And they gave it to me. And I was very happy.
Your dad worked hard so you wouldn't end up in the restaurant business, and look how that turned out, right?
Yeah. Nice job.
How much japchae is your mom gonna make?
A lot. You have no idea.
I always make a lot, so I can make a small food. Anyway, you're the good helper.
How about Dave? Is he a good helper?
I told you he's a king.
Mom, you know how many jokes are going to be made of me now?
I mean, it's really...
Thank you.
I'm just trying to get as much out of that well as I can.
Mom.
Yes?
Look, just like Lou's Garden.
I was pretty adrift when I moved to New York. Like, I didn't know what I was doing with my life. My wife and I started cooking and eating more expansively and lived above a used bookstore, and I started buying cookbooks and just reading them, like, you know, every day, you know, for like $8, go downstairs, buy another book. As I watched all of my friends studying to become doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, I was like, I gotta pick a thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna make food my thing.
All these dead people, Jesus. Guy's got a lot of books by dead people.
I mean, there's more of them than there are of us. I used to come up to this section a lot, which I imagine you would have nothing but bad things to say about. But
Nothing but scorn for the...
fancy international chef community books.
On the other hand...
Oh, wait. Wait,
I love this section.
As we pan down to the Mark Bittman section.
You know, when I was asked to write How to Cook Everything, I was asked to write The New Joy of Cooking. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write the most basic cookbook I know how to write. You know, the other thing is that for 13 years, I had that weekly deadline of The Minimalist. And that was supposed to be short, fast, easy, simple. I can't do anything complicated now. I won't.
I mean, I feel like I did that Momofuku book with Dave. I was really into all that shit, like boning out pig's heads and making torchons and freezing foie gras and doing that all at home. And then it was actually a friend, like him and his girlfriend got pregnant, and he was like, I need to know how to fucking cook. I don't know how to cook. Right. And I bought him Marcello Hazan, Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking. I'm like, this book will take care of you. And he kind of became the guy that I started writing home cooking books for. And I think that having a person in mind for it was always good. But still, you try to test recipes and you try to make them foolproof, and you cook them a couple times, and then you send a book to somebody and they're like, this was salty. And you're like, fuck you, that wasn't salty. And then you make it and you're like, that was salty.
Well, that's why I never do a recipe that doesn't say salt to taste.
It's like the gym teaching of writing, but it's still writing.
It's like the computer manual of writing. It's an instruction manual. One of Jacques Pepin's best lines was, recipes are like rivers, they're never the same from one moment to the next. You never cook the same recipe twice.
When I started cooking, I thought the only food that was worth exploring and learning and working hard to be proficient at was high-end French dining. And that's sort of where I see food at right now in food television, is that everything has to be the super glossy affair. When in reality, good food is everywhere, and it's not just one person's perspective.
YouTube Music Premium. Start a 1-month free trial.